As I'm sure you've heard by now, Nikki Haley is done. Down goes Nikki Haley. And we're gonna talk about that, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the fact that as Donald Trump now ascends to being the sole, candidate for the Republican nomination and has the task before him of unifying the party, he is instead kicking her in the butt on her way out. He bleated this: Nikki Haley got trounced last night in record-setting fashion, despite the fact that Democrats, for reasons unknown, are allowed to vote in Vermont and various other Republican primaries. Much of her money came from radical left Democrats, as did many of her voters, almost 50% according to the polls. At this point, I hope she stays in the race and fights it out until the end. I'd like to thank my family and friends, except for Melania, because you ditched me at my victory speech. Biden is the enemy, he's destroying country, or make America great again. Okay, so whatever. What is important for you to know is that although that message implies that he won and Nikki Haley didn't do that well, although he's leaving out the fact that she did win in Vermont, he alluded to it without acknowledging it. And I think she should stay in the race. It had already been announced that she was dropping out when he said that. So he knew that she was staying out, but he decided to needle her, pretending that he wants her to still be in the race. And look, for those of you who are familiar with Donald Trump on a personal level, this is not going to surprise you. But I want you to bear in mind that he kind of does need her voters. We'll get to that in one sec.
Before we continue with the story, we depend on members to keep on going. Don't wait, click join now on YouTube.
I also want to remind you of this though. Haley did vow not to drop out, calling Trump meaner and more offensive by the day. And I only remind you of that so that in the future, if a politician is ever asked whether they are going to run for something, or if when they're running for something, they're gonna drop out, you literally can ignore everything they say because they lie like bandits. Because there are no consequences, why wouldn't they? In any event, before we get into our discussion, she did drop out. Here is what she said.
I sought the honor of being your president. But in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself. And that's a privilege I very much look forward to enjoying. It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him.
And as you can see, he's already kicking her and her supporters and all that, implying that they're all secretly Democrats. So I'm not sure that he's off to a great start in that quest, but Sharon, the gauntlet has been thrown down. She didn't endorse him, very notably, but she said maybe he can earn our support. What do you think about his efforts to do that so far? Do you think he has a chance?
Well, first of all, the other thing is she lied about, that paper that she signed saying she'd support the Republican nominee. And she said, well, it's just a piece of paper. He's not doing so well. And I don't know that he's getting it through his head that she could honestly be the kingmaker here. I think it was only 24 hours ago or less that he called her bird brain, one of his go-tos for her. I mean, it's so juvenile, okay? So I don't know that he's gonna get it until if it comes down to the wire, and then maybe they can get that controlled Trump or medicated Trump, whatever they do to keep him on message for about 6-7 minutes at a time. He's just not gonna get it unless he has to stay out of jail and some other things.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of handlers that I'm sure are worried about it. And we're gonna turn to how many of those supporters might potentially be on the line in just a sec. But yeah, he can't help himself.
Really?
He can't. I don't even know what that. Why is she bird brain? We never got an answer.
No.
Is it because she's a woman? Is that it? That's probably it. I'm worried that that's it. But anyway, look, she dropped out. I think that she did it specifically because yesterday on our Super Tuesday coverage, I predicted that she would not. And I don't think that she could bear to have me ever get a prediction accurate. So instead she decided to drop out. But that means that he wrapped it up. And it's unfortunate, I prefer at least having someone who's willing to criticize him. And although early on in the race, she refused to criticize him, I would argue she waited too long. Her and Ron DeSantis waited too long. She said, I don't kick sideways, whatever that means. Some of the best kicks are sideways. I've watched the movies. She did eventually start criticizing him. She criticized him on policy, and she also criticized him in some of the fairly vicious ways that I was hoping that she would. So I don't know exactly what sort of history will make of her run. She stuck out longer than anyone else. She won DC, she won Vermont. She made history by being a woman who won a Republican nominating contest, or an individual state. So that is something. What do you think, if anything, history will remember Nikki Haley for?
I think the first, woman of color to do it, just as you said. I think she did talk policy in some ways, particularly in her wrap-up speech there, as she quoted Margaret Thatcher at the end. But I think that that's how they'll remember her, as this proud daughter of immigrant parents that she did not like to rely on as much as perhaps some of us think she should. But now I think she's not worried so much about history, but she's going to probably play her hand as, again, the kingmaker, and we'll see what happens next. And that'll determine the rest of what's written about her.
Yeah, maybe not kingmaker, maybe personal queen maker, but we'll get to that in one sec. So that's Haley. We're gonna set her aside. It's just funny. We started with quite a few candidates actually, and they dropped out really fast. And I hate that they did, because producer Mike made an awesome intro to the Republican primary, and we really didn't get to use it very much, unfortunately, because they all started dropping out.